that occurred out in Potter County yesterday, or early Sunday morning at 1 a.m. I'll just kind of go over the news release as it's written, and I'll give you a little bit of update since then. At 1:05 a.m. on Sunday, August 22nd, Potter County deputies were dispatched to 2001 Las Ticovas on a third-party report of a disconnected call and a female possibly being assaulted. Sherry Gillette was on the phone with a friend when this took place. She made some comments to that friend that she needed help and dropped the phone onto the ground, and her friend automatically, or just as soon as that call was heard hit the ground, made a phone call to the Potter County Sheriff's Department, not on their 911 line, but on their regular line, and the deputies were fairly close by and arrived pretty quickly. When they arrived there, if you guys have been out there are two houses on the property. One is the main house, one was the maid's quarters, or a kind of a secondary house. Mr. Gillette was living in the smaller of the two houses. Sherry was living in the larger of the two houses with all four of their children. The deputies were able to make entry into both houses that weren't locked. They searched through the house, did not find anything in either house. They did find the children in the larger house. They talked to them. The children weren't aware of anything that was going on. They found no signs of Sherry or of Paul Gillette there on the property. There was one vehicle in a driveway that belonged to Mr. Gillette, but there was nothing around it. They didn't see Sherry's vehicle whatsoever. They approached the garage, which was the old, there's a garage that's unattached from the house, it's a three-car garage, and there's a large storage building up on top of a hill. They went and checked the garage. They heard some kind of noises in the garage. They found that the garage was locked. They went back in, the children, and obtained a key for that door and unlocked the door and entered the garage. There, where they entered the garage, they found Mr. Gillette inside the garage, sitting in the dark. At the same time, they found Sherry inside of a vehicle inside the garage, which was her vehicle. The officers took her out of the vehicle. They put her on the ground to perform CPR and to place an AED on her. When the paramedics arrived, they declared her dead. She had signs on her that she had been physically assaulted. However, we don't know if that's the cause of death. The autopsy is being performed as we speak right now, starting at 1:30. The assault itself, we do not believe took place in the garage. However, we're not sure. We did find evidence that it possibly occurred in the driveway. The Potter County deputies took Mr. Gillette into custody and turned him over to Special Crimes. When we arrived, we had him transported to our offices, where we took some photographs and documented some injuries. Mr. Gillette requested an attorney, so we didn't talk to him at all, other than just doing what we would normally do. Justice Peace Nancy Vasquez came to the scene and ordered an autopsy, and like I said, that is ongoing. We did book Mr. Gillette into the Potter County Jail early Sunday morning on a charge of murder. I do know that since that time we have officially filed the paperwork and a warrant charging him with murder. He was arraigned yesterday, and $1 million bond was set on him. We have contacted the U.S. government, who he was on probation for, and advised them of this ongoing incident. And we don't know right now whether they'll file probation charges or not, but we're in contact with them on that. Investigation is still ongoing. We've had people that showed up with information that day and have since contacted us today about their relationship and what was going on. We know about of course, the lawsuit and some of the property issues. I don't know if that's going to be anything, if that's a stressor or anything that may have caused this to occur. We may not ever know that. All we know is what we got so far, and maybe as we go on and people can tell us some additional information, we'll be able to determine maybe what the motive was or what set this off that night. We had to serve search warrants on the property because they co-own it. We've got to serve some search warrants on some electronic property, and we'll have to serve search warrants for DNA as time goes on. So some of the information we're going to gather we won't be able to get until we get those search warrants written and be able to be served. Questions?
He was just sitting in the garage. Were the cars running by chance, anything like that?
The cars, there was only one car in the garage, which was a GMC Yukon that Sherry used, and She was in, I'm not gonna tell you where, but she was in the vehicle. I will tell you, she was not behind the driver's wheel. And, but the officers thought she was deceased, but decided, tried to do CPR on her by removing her from the vehicle where they could get her on a flat surface.
What kind of injuries did she have?
All I can tell you, she has some signs of physical assault on the outer part of her body, and I'll hold back on the rest of that until I get some of the preliminary. But it was obvious that there's been some kind of assaults on her upper body and on her face.
Any other signs of injuries, gunshot, stabbing?
No, nothing like that. I only saw one, of course, one part of her, is the position she was laying there, but no obvious signs of any great, deadly force weapons like a knife or gunshot wounds at all.
Do you believe it may have been by hand?
I'm gonna hold back on it until I find out what the autopsy says. There's a great possibility that it could be, but I don't know 100%, so I'll wait until I get the pathologist what he's getting paid for.
Did the friend say she was trying to get away?
Only thing, it was a very brief conversation. She yells for help and the phone drops to the ground. There's not a whole lot of information that the friend has as to hearing the assault and hearing who it specifically is that she is saying, "Help me" for. Because the phone hits the ground pretty quickly thereafter, and she hangs up and calls for the deputies. They get there, they don't know if she's there because they see no signs, but it was the first place they thought to check. That's the only address they really had. So officers were sent there believing that's probably where she would be, and obviously it's about the time, obviously it's where she was.
Had officers been there before?
There is some history out there of domestic violence that the Potter County Sheriff's Department has responded to. We are getting all those reports from their system to see what it is. A lot of those, they said, were verbal arguments. I've read your guys' articles where they're going through a divorce. Most of those aren't pleasant, so I'm sure that there probably is, but I haven't got all those reports yet, and we haven't reviewed them, so I couldn't give you a number how many times they've been out. But we do know they've been out there on domestic violence complaints in the past.
Did he have any signs of, that he may have
I
physically
will-
assaulted anyone?
I'm probably gonna hold back on giving that until I go to the court. I don't wanna go out and give a whole lot of information as to whether he had great signs of physical force or, we removed evidence from him. I think we'll hold back on that for the trial.
What was he doing in the garage? Was he just waiting for you guys, or was he hiding? I'm just
He
confused why he's
didn't
still
tell
there.
us, Rachel. I don't know.
Okay.
Was
I just
there,
know it's where he got found, but he wasn't telling us what he was waiting for, what his plans were, or what he did.
any signs of drug abuse, or had alcohol in his breath, or any of that?
No signs of alcohol or drugs that we could determine played a part in this, at least on his part. As far as her, I won't know until toxicology.
Was anyone else home?
All the children were in the house, but they were all asleep.
Who are they with now?
Hmm?
Who are they with?
They are with her father, I believe.
How old are the children?
Right off the top of my head, I don't know. I think there's some teenagers all the way down to a first grader, but I don't know their names right offhand, or I didn't come prepared to answer that, so I don't know. I just know there's 4 kids.
Did he resist arrest in any kind of way?
Nope. He's been very cooperative.
Until they got a lawyer.
I haven't spoken to his lawyer yet. He's very cooperative.
But he hasn't said anything.
Now, when he arrived here at the unit, he asked for an attorney, so we didn't ask him any questions, but we still did our processing and fingerprints, pictures, and things like that.
Can you tell us what, you said that some other people came forward later in the day on Sunday. Can you give?
Not a whole lot yet. They're just giving us background information. No one else was home, no one else witnessed this offense. The closest one would be the person on the phone. They're just telling us about the relationship prior to this. Probably things that they heard, things they knew. Now, I'll hold back a little bit till we get some more information on that.
Would you characterize it as storming? What would they characterize it that way?
I think they were concerned. That's about as far as I'll go. No, that's okay. On the second one, it's kind of an update on the 22-month-old. As you see, I identified the child. She died, actually was brain dead at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Her parents, her mom, and her next of kin decided to make a gift, to life gift of her organs, which commendable on her part. And that surgery was performed, started about 10:30 Saturday night and finished somewhere around 1 a.m. Sunday morning. After that surgery was completed, she was picked up and transported to Lubbock, where and Judge Vasquez had ordered an autopsy, and it's going to be done tomorrow morning. Pretty much, no doubt in my mind, it's probably going to be the gunshot to the head, but we'll wait to see for the termination. And also, people had some questions whether we're going to file charges on the adults in the house. I don't know. Some of the factors we have to look in is what kind of safety did they take. We know where the gun was at. We know where it was placed. You know, the one factor, it was placed there and it was loaded. Obviously, we don't believe that the child who picked up the gun was aware that it was loaded, or probably even aware that it was real. He played and was playing with it, pointed at his sister, pulled the trigger, and unfortunately the rest of it's what occurred. I think I'll wait until I get all the information from talking to all the adults. We've talked to mom, we talked to grandmother. There was another person, granddad, who lived there. He was out of town. We'll talk to him. We'll see what precautions were put into place with the gun, why it was placed there, who placed it there, and whether the kids knew and seen it be placed there. It wasn't in a place where it was readily accessible to the kid. He had to make a little bit more of an effort to get to it than just walking in, opening up a drawer, and reaching in and getting the gun. So that's going to play a factor. And we have talked with both the DA and the county attorney, because making a weapon accessible to a minor is a Class A misdemeanor. And then if you're looking at some kind of injury to a child by omission, by doing something you shouldn't, that's a felony offense. So I've talked with both Randall Sims and the county attorney. We'll present them, both of them, the entire case once we get all the facts. Right now, they have a lot of issues to deal with, making the funeral and everything else. They don't need to be worried about what I'm going to do later on down the line. So I'll let them decide what they're going to do once I get done with the investigation, and once CPS gets done with their side, then we'll present the whole thing. Right now, I'm not that worried about that issue. If it does, then it does.
Would you repeat what the potential charges are, if there are any, filed, making a weapon accessible?
Making a weapon accessible to a child, it's a Class A misdemeanor. It's under Chapter 42 of the Penal Code. Mm-hmm. And then injury to a child by omission, which means you had an obligation in which to do something. And the omission would be maybe you're not there, you're not supervising, or you didn't take. Usually what you end up having an omission is you don't take somebody to the doctor when you're supposed to take them to, like a baby or something, and they die from something. That's the, you have an obligation, you took responsibility for that person. You know, the question is it's not mom's house, it's grandma's house. Whose gun is it? Who put it there? You know, who do you charge everybody in the household? You know, there's a whole lot of other issues that come into play. And right now, with everything else that's ongoing and everything, this one is tragic. And right now, I'm not looking to go out after the parents, but we'll get the investigation and present it.
Where are the rest of the kids right now?
As far as I know, they're still with CPS. That's their part of it. 5-year-old, or the 10-year, the kid under child under 10, but but there is no thing that we're going to do to that kid. I'm trying to protect his age just because I don't need him traumatized by seeing us accusing him or say something on TV or anything else. But he didn't know any different. He didn't know any bad. You know, we're not doing anything. He's under the age of responsibility. He can't be criminally charged. Just a terrible, unfortunate accident.
Is it considered a homicide?
Well, it is to an extent, because you had one person doing something against another person. It's not going to be knowingly and intentionally or with, but you might have criminal negligence. I think just terminology-wise, because one person shoots or kills another person, that's what it is. But you would be nothing under the under the culpable mental states that would fall that you'd get underneath this, because you have to have those that when you file charges on an adult, and that child doesn't fall underneath any of the culpable mental states because of his age.
So as we speak, y'all are still working on who actually owns the gun,
Well, we know who owns the gun.
who owns the gun.
Well, I know who owns it. If I can tell you, no.
Okay.
But thanks for asking.
Okay.
So close.
Who's the gun registered to?
I'm waiting for ATF to get back to me on that.
Okay.
I run a trace, we run a trace on all the guns.
Okay, and so right now, you're still, accurate to say that you're still gathering information about the whole, the scenario that occurred?
Of course, and there was one person that wasn't there that may or may not have placed the gun where it's at, and I think we owe that obligation to talk to him and the granddad to see what information he has, and he was gone. And then, of course, we didn't get to go back to this because this incident happened, so we'll get back to it, we'll interview these folks, we'll find out what CPS finds out from their investigation, put the whole thing together, and then present it to both the county and the district attorney.
Was there only one gun in the house, or is there more guns? Have we
There
taken them out
was-
of the house?
There was some other one, like a BB gun and a rifle, but I don't know where exactly, if they were in the same room,
Okay.
but they hadn't been disturbed or moved.
And back to the first one, she was strangled, is that correct? Did I have that right?
Who?
The Gillette?
I don't know where you got that from.
Is that where we got, okay. Is that not
I
what happened?
said, I said she was physically assaulted.
Okay.
But, I have heard that,
With
I have heard that,
objects
I have
or
heard
with-
that rumor being sent out through text messages through
Okay.
some people in the community.
Uh-huh.
I don't think so.
Was
was there.
it with an object was she assaulted with? Do we know?
We don't know for sure.
Okay.
That we're not sure whether it's all hands and feet or it was something else.
How far apart were these two little children, the brother and the deceased girl? Were they in the same room?
They were in the same room, probably not very far, but I don't know exactly how many feet it was.
They were in the same
Yeah.
room. Would you have called what they were doing?
I was just playing. When I was a little kid, didn't you get your brother, or if you had one, did he not point his play gun at you at some point?
Well, he probably would have wanted to, but hadn't, but.
My three brothers did, so.
And are you going to tell us the age of the brother?
Inadvertently I did, but I didn't really want to because and then I said I was too tired, but because I was trying just to protect the child from seeing this and then thinking, you know, all of a sudden I'm this bad. And he doesn't need to. I mean, hopefully the parents, hopefully CPS is giving him counseling. Hopefully they're taking care of that so that maybe he can develop into a good adult and stuff where this is not dragging behind him all the time. So I don't want to sit up here and say I'm blaming him for anything.
Okay, there's something I don't understand about the timeline of her death.
What's that?
Okay, so on Saturday at about 2 o'clock, little Donica was declared dead, and we're talking about brain dead at that point.
But they kept her on life support, so they have to keep her with the blood circulating and breathing to harvest organs.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand. So physicians know that there's no brain activity, there's not going to be a brain activity. So her little body's left on life support and breathing. Her next of kin decides to do organ donation. And then, okay, so that's Saturday afternoon, and this says that the surgery was complete early Monday morning.
That's the harvest of the organs.
So that went on for more than 24 hours.
That's totally up to Life Gift as to when they get the doctors and the crew in here to
Sure.
do that. And-
I just want to make sure I
Yeah,
understood.
and I
the
strongly,
sequence.
I support the fact that it doesn't interfere with the autopsy or anything else. They give a report that says that those organs that they remove are viable and there was no injuries or anything else to them. You know, without saying I want to be, somebody reading this saying, okay, we're harvesting and stuff, some people may not like that terminology, but that's, they had the surgery, they removed the organs,
Uh-huh.
and at which time all life support that was keeping her so that the organs could be harvested was turned off.
Early this morning.
Yes.
That's what I didn't understand about the timeline.
Well, actually, she was deceased at 2 p.m. Saturday.
And that's what will go on
But
her
she, yes, that's the time it'll go on the death certificate.
That's what- okay.
She was maintained until that later.
I have a question about the father. I know there was an issue with him with CPS in the past. Has he been notified of any of this?
I would assume CPS has notified him, but at the time when we talked to the mother, she didn't give us no information at all as to where to locate him at. So I probably think he has been, but I have not followed up, been a little busy.
Is he incarcerated?
Who, dad on this
Dad?
child?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Okay.
Can you answer the question, why is there a need for an autopsy? Is there a perspective, do you have a perspective on that?
Well, if you have any kind of deal where there could be charges filed, say as this, with providing a weapon or saying injury to a child by omission, you have to show legally the injury to that person. So yes, there's a legal reason to have that so that a person can come in and say, okay, here's a legal cause of death, and everything else has been ruled out, that there wasn't, say with an adult, wasn't a heart attack, wasn't liver, wasn't cancer, some other injury did not cause this. So you're looking at, that's legally why they have the autopsies. There is the fact that A2D at times does the civil autopsies, say maybe trying to determine just a cause of death on a routine, non-criminal matter, or say on suicides and such. But if you're looking at pretty much wanting to file or going to possibly file criminal charges, then you have to have an autopsy legally for that pathologist to come in and say this is the cause of death, and nothing else came into it. And that's the way we've done it all the time. So, normally, yeah, I have no doubt that this is the cause, but I'm not a pathologist. So he gets a report, he makes a determination and says that yes, it is, and in case somewhere down the road he has to testify, he's the person who comes in with the credentials to testify.
I ran into folks from Amarillo Traffic Investigations out of Gillette's. I think I did anyway.
Yes,
Is that just simply because you guys are overloaded? Or?
No. They have what's called the total station, and it's a laser tie-down system. They can take the poles and the laser device and they can measure and tie down that scene total with all the buildings, all the houses, all the driveways, the curbs and everything, landscaping, in probably hours, where if we tried to do that with a tape measure, it'd take us days. I've used them on this particular incident, I've used them on the officer involved on Amarillo Boulevard in Lincoln, and I used them at the sorority house, just because of if it's a large field or a large area that we have to cover to tie down a scene, they have a better device. They're trained in using that, they're trained in using the mapping. My guys aren't. I'm going to send some of my people to the same school, but they're available for us, the same as I'm available to them if they need help. It's just to come out and assist me in tying down that large scene.
What's going to happen to all that estate? I mean, obviously he had some things going, so.
I'm sure that the attorneys representing the family, Mr. Gillette and everything else, that's out of my domain. That's something that those attorneys will deal with down the road. My one and only concern is the homicide, and if I can determine what triggered it. All the other issues that's been in the paper and everything else may have played a part, but all the civil stuff, it's really not anything that I'm going to get into, unless it's got something to do, complete bearing on the homicide itself.
He hasn't posted bond.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Can you tell us who his attorney is?
At the time, he asked us to call the same one he had before I think he asked us to call Bill Kelly, but I don't know if that's his attorney or not. So I don't know if Mr. Kelly is representing him, so I'm not going to say that, but I know that's who he asked to call. We were unable to contact Mr. Kelly, and I don't know who's going to be the one that's going to represent him at the end. So whether it be court appointed or whether he'll hire someone.
Is this the 10th, 11th homicide of the year?
10th at my county.
10th?
But the little girl is in that list also.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. I mean, even though it's about as
I understand.
close to being away from one as there is, but yeah, I think you almost got to, unless someone tells me down the line, like at IBR, which is our incident-based reporting, tells me that, nope, that isn't, or something. I kind of got a feeling, you have one person shoot another one, even if it's accidental purpose, it's pretty much what it is, but
Does that include the officer involved shooting on?
those are carried in the officer-involved shooting category, separate of the homicide, so.
Okay.
It's a whole set, it's a different category whatsoever. There's actually 2 reports made on each one of those.
that's fine.
One that shows the officer say, per se as a victim, and one that shows the person shot as a victim because of incident-based reporting. So it becomes confusing. At the end of the year, I get all kinds of things from somebody saying, you've had all these things, and I go, no, I don't, I've got only this many, and that's my count. I don't care what your count is, but this is my count, so. It's different things. They'll say that if you filed like an injury, you filed a homicide, and they come back and say you did injury to a child, then it's not a homicide for IVR.